All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The New York Giants might be in the midst of their bye week, but yesterday, General Manager Joe Schoen came out and said all of the right things about the team starting quarterback. Yesterday at Shane's press conference, he said that, quote, the expectations is that when Daniel Jones is healthy, he will be our starting quarterback. End quote. But if you truly believe that, I'm selling a bridge if you're interested in buying it. And I've talked about this before, and I'm going to keep talking about it. Joe Schoen, Giants general manager, and head coach Brian Dayball don't believe in Daniel Jones. They inherited him. Of course, they didn't draft him. And just if you don't believe me, just look what it took for Daniel Jones to get that extension from the Giants this past offseason. It came down to the 11th hour. Jones got the 4-year deal. But even with that said, the Giants have themselves an out after next year. And I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. If the New York Giants have a top 10 pick in next year's NFL draft, you had better believe that they're going to be using that selection on a quarterback. Now, Jones may be penciled in as a Giants starting quarterback come week number 1 of next season if he's healthy. But after that, everything is up in the air. I talked about the out on Jones's deal. Also, you got to think and factor in Jones's injury history. He's only made 59 starts in 5 seasons with the Giants. And of course, that number, as far as missed games, obviously is increasing this year as we saw Jones, suffer the ACL injury a couple of weeks ago that ended the season. And the reports is that he's looking at an 8 to 10 month rehab. So should be healthy for the start of training camp, but there's also a possibility that he's not. And if you're the Giants, you cannot go into this thing with blinders. Now, in those 59 starts that Jones has made, he's 22, 36, and 1, 62 career touchdown passes, 40 interceptions, and a completion percentage just above 64. You look at it like this. I think it's too. I'm not even going to call it tempting because I think Joe Shane is a very realistic person. You know, you've seen the pictures of him going around drafting. You know, looking at different quarterbacks, presumably as he's making a trek to certain games around the country this college football season. But nonetheless, the expectation again is that the Giants are going to have a top 10 pick, and there's a bevy of quarterbacks available that are going to be there when they do select. Now, it might not be Caleb Williams. Who is expected to be the first overall pick, just due to the fact that, hey, the Giants have now won their last two and they've gone from 2-8 to 4-8. Still, they got some work cut out for them if they want to get out of that hole and try to win this season. Obviously, the playoffs are not there for them. But nonetheless, they're still more than likely going to be in a solid position to take another quarterback if Caleb Williams is not there. Drake May out of North Carolina, Bo Nix out of Auburn, Michael Penix Jr. out of the University of Washington. One of those guys should be available for New York. And of course, Joe Shane has to do his due diligence. But getting back to the Giants taking one of those quarterbacks, if they do take a quarterback next spring, like I expect them to do, and you got a scenario where, hey, Daniel Jones, maybe if he doesn't even if he doesn't light it up, but he has a solid year, then Shane could trade the veteran quarterback, but he's not going to go out there now and say that because number one, he would lose his leverage with other GMs around the team, around the league, because I'm sure there's somebody out there who feels that Daniel Jones is fixable and they could do something with him. But also, the bigger part of it, you don't want to give cannon fodder to the New York media because can you imagine just for a second right now? If Joe Shane had that talk with the media yesterday and he said, hey, you know what? We're looking at quarterbacks. We're ready to move into another direction. This would have been all that you would have seen in the New York area today. and for the coming days, and it would have been a distraction for this Giants team. This Giants team that's trying to build momentum as they're trying to, somewhat salvage what has been a disappointing year so far. So no, Joe Schoen is going out there and saying the right things. It's one of those where the quarterback room for the Giants is going to look a lot different next year anyway. Tyrod Taylor, the backup quarterback, who himself has had a long injury history throughout his NFL career, he's going to be a free agent next year. Tommy DeVito, the undrafted quarterback who has been starting the last couple of games for the Giants, was the starting quarterback when they won their last two games. He's proven that he could be a serviceable backup. No disrespect to Tommy DeVito. He's not a franchise quarterback. And it's one of those where you look at the last two games, Tommy DeVito played okay, but the Giants didn't win because of Tommy DeVito. They won because they played two teams in the Washington Commanders and the New England Patriots who are actually worse than them. So it's one of those where he can be brought in to be a serviceable backup, but Tommy DeVito is not the future at quarterback if you're the New York Giants. What the Giants need, and this is no disrespect to Daniel Jones because he's not that guy, they need themselves a franchise quarterback, not a plug and patch guy. And you think about the Giants, you think about the quarterback, you think about the John Mara factor, and of course, you know John Mara, you want to stop yourself short of saying he has an affinity for Daniel Jones, but he did want to give the young man an opportunity, a proper opportunity to succeed, which is something that previous general manager Dave Gettleman didn't do for Daniel Jones and the Giants because he didn't put a quality team around him. And at the same time, Dave Gettleman made a huge reach in taking Daniel Jones not only in the first round, but sixth overall. With that said, Daniel Jones could be fixed for another team, but at the end of the day, he's not the guy for the Giants. I think the Giants definitely need to go into another direction. And like I said before, this upcoming pick, especially if it is going to be a quarterback for the Giants, is going to be the most important selection of Joe Shane's career as the general manager of the Giants. Because if he doesn't go quarterback there, and that means that this team decides to stick with Daniel Jones long term. That means that he's hitched his wagon to Daniel Jones. And again, Daniel Jones is not the guy. So this is going to be a very important decision for Dave Gettleman. Now, what will the Giants do about the quarterback position? I think they should take a quarterback early. And of course, what should the Giants do? I think it's take a quarterback. So I think at the end of the day, the Giants should go into this draft focused on quarterback. Obviously, there are other positions that this team needs to be fixed. Obviously, you think about the offensive line. The Giants have invested a lot in recent years in their offensive line. But if you notice the season, in the brief time that Tyrod Taylor did play, the offensive line looked better than they did when Daniel Jones was there. Why? Because Tyrod Taylor gets the football out quicker than Daniel Jones. And that's something that the Giants are going to need going forward. Their offensive line is not great, but it's not eh, historically bad either. But you do have a scenario where you do need a new, fresh fish, if you will, to lead this offense. We saw Daniel Jones at times this year miss Jalen Hyatt wide open a couple of times. He's been inaccurate and been inconsistent throughout his career. And like I said last year, it was a career year. It was a walk year for him, and he had to go out there and prove it. And he did prove it. To the best of his ability. But you also have to give credit to new head coach Brian Dayball for that last year, as well as quarterback coach Mike Kafka. Now, I know things have stepped back a lot this year, and the Giants have been unable to live up to the preseason expectations, at least. But nonetheless, this is going to be a work in progress. And Joe Shane admitted that when he first took over last year. Like I said, the Giants, Daniel Jones included, they overachieved as a team last year. And I think this year has been a reality check for everybody involved. And Daniel Jones has gone back to being the Daniel Jones that we've known during his time with the Giants, which is an inconsistent quarterback who has been unable to stay healthy. And you cannot build a team around that in the National Football League. So when it's all said and done, Joe Shane said all the right things for the public and the media yesterday, but I am not buying it. Okay. And if I'm wrong, I'm just wrong. But I just don't buy it that Joe Shane is going to be happy and content going forward with Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback. You better believe, like I said, if that's a top 10 pick for the Giants next April in the draft, they're going to have themselves a new franchise quarterback. There's going to be controversy eventually in New York about this, but Joe Schoen is not rocking the boat this year at least. So let's see how the Giants are able to finish this season out. They're looking like they're fighting and they're giving it everything that they have, and that's a big reason why they won their last two games, got their bye, and then they got five more to go. But nonetheless, let's see what direction Joe Schoen is going to lead Big Blue in, especially at the quarterback position. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.